Let's see what's on television.
Free at last.
Next. Next. Very good. Next. This is John Geary, no longer associated with Thrash Course because I I quit. I was not fired. Anyway, we are just a few blocks away from the Capitol building, and what will be happening today is that we will be looking at the confidential files released on the space race of the 1970s. Anyway, soon we are as close as we can get. However, you know, can you do one thing right? Can you do one thing right? Anyway, all right. So I'm with CBN. We're just a few blocks away from the Capitol. Okay, we're just a few blocks away from the Capitol building. They're releasing new files on this on the space race. Please. Just go. Just roll the footage. Just roll the footage. Very good. Maybe I should look into this more.
Hello? This thing on? Alright. The year is 1958. I'm one of the head scientists at the newly established National Aeronautics and Space Administration, also known as NASA. Eisenhower proposed this agency so that we could propel the American space program. He authorized the creation of this documentary to demonstrate just how superior American technology is to the Soviets. Godspeed, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, gentlemen. We first have to go back to the very beginning. In 1903, the Wright brothers successfully flew an airplane for the first time, paving the way for the future of aerospace technology, which had another great achievement in May of 1927 when Charles A. Lindbergh completed the first transatlantic flight from New York to Paris. Boeing 307, the first air-pressurized cabin airplane completed in 1938, which built on aerospace innovation. Now, if we go broader, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, was established as a federal agency in March of 1915. This agency had the purpose of promoting and elevating aeronautic research and technology. Now let's fast forward a few years from our last event. I'll toss it over to my pal, Mike Jablinski.
Thank you. Let's begin. March 22nd, 1946, the WAC, the first American-built rocket to actually leave the Earth's atmosphere, reaches an altitude of 50 miles. Now, January 23rd, 1950, the Air Force creates the Air Research and Development Command. A few years earlier, America begins testing on animals in space. So on June 11, 1948, Albert 1, a rhesus monkey, is launched into space and reaches 39 miles up before suffocating. June 14th, 1949, just a year later, Albert 2 was launched into space and survives the flight, but did not make impact. Now, America goes through several animal test subjects like mice, chimps, and monkeys, but none began to actually survive their flights until Yorick on September 20th, 1951. Being the first animal to survive, he gets a lot of publicity. Now, Ham, launched on January 31st, 1961, was the first hominid to travel in space and survive. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Patient has escaped. This is not a warning. Patient has escaped. Not a drill. I repeat, patient has escaped.
Okay, all right.
Patient has escaped. I repeat, patient has escaped. This is not a drill. Patient has
Okay,
escaped.
all right.
Sir, we need to get out of here now.
We need to leave. 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 Go, 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 go.
Patient has escaped. This is not a drill. Patient has
We saved some of the pets in the accident. Where we have to continue experimenting. And speaking of, while America was known for using many types of apes and monkeys and chimps, the USSR liked to use dogs, and this is our lab dog, but we don't use her for experiments usually. From just 1951 to 1952, the Russians launched 9 dogs into space. Their first subjects were Dezik and Tsitsiagan. who launched on August 15th, 1951, and they all survived, which was a feat for all types of animals. So the most famous of the Russian space dogs was Laika, who was just a street dog but hastily trained and launched on November 3rd, 1957. However, with the Russians being cruel animals, they didn't expect Laika to survive and had her on a one-way trip to hell. So, she died before she could even leave the atmosphere, and then when Sputnik 2 inevitably burned up on impact, her remains were never found. Help me! I'm sorry! Alright, okay. Let's continue.
Sir, are you okay?
I'm fine. Let's continue. Okay. It's the full first test of the March 2nd, 1950, 75,000-pound thrust liquid rocket engine in the Navajo program was conducted. It's called the XLR-43NAI. Sputnik 1. This is the Russians now. First human-made object to orbit in space. Launched October 4th, 1957 by Soviet Union. Alright? December 20th, 1957. The Boeing 707 makes its first flight. It is generally credited with ushering in the jet age. It enters service in October 1958 with Pan American World Airways. October 11, 1958. Pioneer 1, it's NASA's first launch, our corporation. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, was created in 1958 to regulate aircraft flight. It's December 19th, 1958, the first transmission and reception of a human voice from space. This is phenomenal. It just happened a little bit ago. Now, the dirty Russians, the dirty Russians launch Vostok 1. It's the first spacecraft to carry a human. This is crushing for some Americans. Yuri A. Gagarin, he launches on April 12th, 1961. This is terrible for Americans. We expected to be the first ones to do this. Okay. Okay. First distance measuring equipment. November 30th, 1964, under the FAA, the first commissioned distance measuring equipment, the DME. It's combined with an instrument landing system, ILS, at the JFK International Airport. Oh my god,
Sir,
he's alive. Oh,
sir.
he's made it. Oh.
Listen up, new recruits. The last facility was compromised, so we have to take the lead on the space innovation. So, what that means is, I'm going to debrief you on our next mission. Let's get to work, boys. Okay, so, whether we wanted it or not, we stepped into a Cold War with the Soviet Union. So let's show them American innovation and get to the moon, one step at a time. Sputnik. From what I can gather, it's the first successful orbiting satellite launched from Russia. It's an amazing feat, but with the right team, we can develop greater rockets, outperform the Soviets, and break their hold on aerospace technology.
Yes, sir. Before we start, I have some important information to give you on the NASA facility incident in 1965. I'm Private Nathaniel Jablinski, and my father, Mike Jablinski, was personally involved in that incident. He was KIA at that facility. Also along with Carl Doofenshmirtz, also KIA. Robert Heffley, missing in action. All because Project Primate. We haven't found him yet, sir. I'm so sorry. On to you, Howard.
Thank you. Sir, I have important information about the whereabouts of Project X. Now, this is his last known sighting. As you can see, he's traveled a lot over the country. We have to find him, sir, for the greater good of mankind.
I'm sorry, but we need to focus on the space race. This will have to hold off.
Sir. Okay, so first, we gotta talk about Project Mercury.
Okay, I need you to inform me more about this.
Yes, sir. Project Mercury. This was NASA's first big effort started in 1958, and it basically set out to learn more about humans in space. There were 6 total Mercury flights. The first flight, Freedom 7, sent the first American into space, who was Alan Shepard. This was in 1961. Another notable flight was Friendship 7, when John Glenn became the first American to orbit Earth, and that was in 1962.
Hey, Potts, have you found anything or are you wasting time still?
Huh? What? Oh, sorry, sir. Next after Project Mercury was Project Gemini. Here, let me tell you a little bit about it.
Okay.
The next effort was Project Gemini, which helped prepare for the Apollo missions. The Gemini program was able to carry 2 astronauts, an upgrade from the Mercury ones. The first flight with astronauts was Gemini 3, and then Gemini 4
Eyes up here, hey.
sorry sir, involved the first spacewalk. The rest of the Gemini missions stayed in orbit for increased time and helped NASA learn more about space travel. Woo! Our next mission is the Apollo mission, aka getting Americans to the moon before the dirty Soviets.
Sir, I got the wires working. Speaking
Great,
of the
great.
Soviets, we got some encrypted files for them right here. There's no telling what this could be.
Привет, я Никита Хрущев, и сегодня мы запустили новую ракету. Вот эта ракета была «Спутник». «Спутник» сделает нас первый в космос. Американские уже долго за хорошие ракеты, как у нас, Саванский Союз. Спасибо большое и спокойной ночи, космос и comrades.
What was that?
I don't know, sir. I don't know.
From 1957?
I don't know.
They probably still think they're better than us.
I-
We need to get to the moon.
Yeah, we do.
God. Okay, we need to go to the moon now. We need to be better than them. Oh, darn it.
All the Apollo missions have led us getting to the moon. Apollo 1, 1967. 3 astronauts, Virgil Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee, all lost their lives after a fire broke out in the command module during a pre-flight test. Apollo 7 set out to test a redesigned command and service module, CSM. It launched in October 1968 at Cape Canaveral and successfully put astronauts Walter Schirra, R. Walter Cunningham, and Don F. Eisel into space. Apollo 8 was the first crewed spacecraft to successfully orbit the moon and return to Earth. Launched in December 1968, and the crew, Frank Borman, James Lovell Jr., and William Anders, were also the first to witness and photograph an Earthrise. Apollo 9 was the first manned flight of all Apollo lunar hardware in Earth's orbit and also manned the first of the lunar module, which was controlled by Russell L. Schweickart. It was launched on March 3, 1969. Apollo 10 launched a couple weeks ago on May 18, 1969, and landed a couple days later. The astronauts aboard were Thomas Stafford, Eugene Cernan, and John Young. It was meant to be a rehearsal for an actual moon landing, and it put the lunar module just a couple of miles from the moon's surface. This achievement has helped us gather information for Apollo 11's launch.
Oh! We won! We won! We beat the Soviets! What day is it? Oh yeah, it's the morning, July 25th, 1969. The Apollo 11 has safely landed back on Earth. Okay. Apollo 11. NASA has just accomplished what President Kennedy said at the beginning of the decade. That Americans would be the first to put a man on the moon. Apollo 11 launched on July 16th, and astronaut Neil Armstrong was the first human to set foot on the moon, followed by Buzz Aldrin.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The lunar lander Eagle brought them to the surface, while Michael Collins stayed in orbit above in the Columbia, the command and service module. Eventually, they came back to Earth and landed safely yesterday.
Hello? We haven't used this in a couple of years. Anyway, it's 1972. We have just finished the last of the Apollo missions, which continued to enhance technology for NASA. Apollo 13 launched on April 11, 1970, at the Kennedy Space Center. It is notable because it was supposed to be the third mission to land on the moon. However, an explosion in one of the oxygen tanks during flight made it impossible to travel to the moon and back. Instead, the crew was forced to turn back to Earth. The Apollo missions ended with Apollo 17 in December 1972, which was the last time humans have stepped foot on the moon. The Apollo mission focused more on scientific objectives and launched astronauts Eugene Cernan, Harrison Schmitt, and Ronald Evans.
He's in Montana.
I'm telling you.
Oh my
Gentlemen.
god. Oh my god.
Gentlemen,
Oh my
gentlemen.
god. Oh,
Let's
we're
go.
recording?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's 1977, and we have just initiated the Voyager program to help us learn more about the outer planets of our solar system. Voyager 1 and 2 are taking advantage of a rare alignment of these outer planets that will allow them to enter the orbits of these planets without immensely expensive technology. We'll update you more, hopefully, on the future of these programs.
No, we can't send children. We need a celebrity, someone big, someone to enhance this program.
What about Big Bird?
You're a goddamn genius. What's your name, young man?
Tom, think of it. We send Big Bird into space. Children love him. He's already an icon of this age.
Of course.
Children love him. Parents love him. We have great funding for the space program. Oh, wait. He's too big. His dimensions, he's huge. Dang. Wait, what about a teacher? Children love teachers for the most part.
They do.
We'll do that. Let's call this Challenger.
This could be revolutionary, old sport. Let's
Let's
get
do
started.
So the 25th Space Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
We regret to inform you that the Challenger has met an unfortunate accident. Approximately 17% of the American population witnessed the launch on live television. I'd just like a moment to remember the names who fell victim to this unfortunate incident. Krista McAuliffe, Gregory Jarvis, Judy Resnick, Dick Scobie, Ronald McNair, Michael Smith, and Ellison Onizuka. Can we please have a moment of silence for these fallen victims? Thank you.
So far, Voyager 1 and 2 have explored the outer planets of our solar system, including Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn. However, after discovering that these satellites are truly very powerful, we have decided that it would be best if they go beyond our solar system and continue to travel throughout the universe to see what they discover.
Oh, time to pack up, boys. Cold War's over.
Can I finish this equation first?
No.
No?
Let's go. Come on. Burn it all.
Burn it all? Okay.
Documentary's over. Cut it.
Well, they didn't burn it all. Here's the end of the documentary. From the humble beginnings of aerospace engineering in America, we have truly come a long way. The International Space Station is a prime example of this incredible space development. The first component of the ISS was put into orbit in 1998 and has been inhabited by humans continuously since November 2000. Over 45 astronauts have been able to call the ISS home, and not only this, but the massive piece of technology also is home to both Russians and Americans. Also, multiple experiments have been conducted in the space station to help scientists of the world further understand the inner machinations of space. Not only this, but NASA made a groundbreaking announcement in May 2019. By utilizing new technologies like the Space Launch System, which is designed to transport very large payloads to the moon, Americans will be able to return once more to the moon and stay there. The scientists at NASA plan to achieve this goal by 2024 and then harvest the materials on the moon to help them improve their already impressive machines. Following this in the future, NASA plans to planet hop to travel the cosmos.
Oh boy! I love aerospace engineering in America. Time to tinkle.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words,